Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, I wanted to do a follow-up video to the Defenders of the Realm video that was just posted last Sunday. And this is a gameplay discussion video because I didn't discuss a lot of the gameplay in that video. It was more of a kind of a casual, just long discussion about the game in general. But for those of you who maybe are looking to get into this game now, I wanted to talk a little bit more specifically about the gameplay and kind of show you how I am playing the game right now, which expansions I am using, which modules I am using, and how I am setting things up to kind of tailor the game to be the exact kind of game I want to play. Normally in a game of Defenders of the Realm, you do want to play with 4 heroes. I think it's really balanced for a party of 4. But while I find that that works for me personally at the beginning of a game, by the end of the game, there is so much going on that I usually get overwhelmed with 4 characters. There are so many decisions and so many cards to keep track of, so many powers that I just end up feeling overwhelmed. And so I am trying to play with 2 heroes, but I think most people could probably handle a full party of 4 because I think most people are probably better game players than I am. But I'm trying to play this as a 2-hero game, and I'm not quite sure if it's working or not. But the 2 heroes I am playing with are the Cleric and the Monk. I really do like these characters. They are characters that I play often. The Cleric has 3 abilities: Blessed Attack, Turn Undead, and Sanctify the Land. So the Blessed Attack, she can add a +1 die to each roll attacking undead and demon minions. So she's really good at attacking the black minions and the red minions. With Turn Undead, if she ends her turn in a space with any black minions, she can push those out to adjacent spaces. And so normally if a hero ends their turn in any space with a minion, they will take damage for each minion in that space. She's also really good at sanctifying the land, and that is removing the corruption of the taint from a land. Usually you would have to discard a card that matches the color of the space you are in to do that, but she can do that without discarding a card. All she needs to do is roll a 5 or a 6 on a d6 in order to do that. My Monk here, she has a spiritual quest, so she always has 2 quests. And when she completes one quest, she can draw another. So the Monk always has 2 quests to try to complete, I should say. She also has a Flurry of Blows. All natural 6s rolled in combat count as 2 hits. So if she is fighting 3 minions and she rolls that, this 6 would count as 2 hits. So that die could kill 2 minions, or it could also damage a general twice. And then she also has defensive moves. Anytime the Monk would lose life points to enemy minions or losing combat in against a general, she can roll a number of dice equal to the wounds and negate those for every 5 or 6 rolled. So if she was in a space at the end of her turn with 3 red minions, or she got damaged by one of the generals 3 times, she could roll 3d6, and for every 5 or 6, she can negate one of those wounds. And that's pretty cool, because the wounds in this game will eat away at your available actions, because each of the characters has a certain number of action tokens that represent their HP, and also they spend those HP on their turn to do one action. Now, one thing I am doing in order to make the game a little bit easier with 2 heroes is I am giving each one of my heroes an additional action chip. And so the Monk will be starting with 6, or she started with 6 actions, and the Cleric here started with 7 actions. And so that's one thing to make the game just a little bit easier, to give only having 2 characters the ability to kind of move around and manage some of the threats a little better. One of the expansions I am playing with, and this is the one that I failed to open up in the last video. This is one of the new ones I got from the sale, from the closeout sale on Eagle Gryphon Games. And apparently they are out of the base game on Eagle Gryphon Games. For a while, they had some ding and dent copies for really cheap. But it does look like they've sold out of those, but I really wouldn't worry about it. This game has sold so many copies. There are so many used copies of Defenders of the Realm out in the wild. This game sold like crazy. It sold like crazy for a long time. This game was available for like 10 years, 13 years. So I doubt that used prices will really go up in value all that much. And there should always be used copies of this game available. But the Legends expansion, this adds an additional power to your characters. So this expansion here makes your characters a little more powerful. So we have the Berserker, a Lone Wolf, the Brotherhood of Heroes, the Gypsy Trader, the Brotherhood of Trackers, Elf Friends, Horse Whisper, Hobbit Friends, Roustabout, Night Fighters, Veteran Adventurer, Orc Hatred, Friends of the Eagle Riders, and Reckless. And the two cards that I drew at random for my heroes are, so the Cleric is the Queen's Champion. And so this says you have vowed to protect the Queen and have been initiated into the prestigious Champions of the Queen when fighting troops on or adjacent to Monarch City. So Monarch City, of course, is the main city in the middle of this map. And this is the city that we are trying to protect from getting invaded. And the four generals, we have Varkalok, the general of the undead, Balazarg, the general of the demons, Sapphire, the blue dragon general, and Gorgut, the green orc general. They and their minions are marching towards Monarch City, spreading corruption as they go, spreading minions as they go. And we need to protect Monarch City. So as the Queen's Champion, my Cleric is a protector of the Queen. And when fighting troops on or adjacent to Monarch City, I get to add +1 to each die roll. So she's really good at defending that castle. Additionally, if minions move into Monarch City, you must move directly to Monarch City with your actions to defend the Queen. So the my Cleric is kind of always around, needs to always kind of be around Monarch City, just to make sure that that city is protected. But right now she's not. She has moved down to the very bottom left corner of the map in order to clear out this region here at Scorpion Canyon. Scorpion Canyon is the starting region for Balazarg, the demon general. And the demons can cause corruption very quickly in this game because it only takes 3 of them to corrupt and taint the land rather than 4. And so because this area already starts tainted and it already starts with 3 demons, she needed to work her way down here to try to clear that out. And so she has done some work down there. Up here in the upper left corner here, we have the starting space of Varkalok here, and that is the undead general. And he starts with his undead minions up there in the dark woods. And then all the way over in the western section of this map on the right-hand side, we have Sapphire's starting space here in the Blizzard Mountains. And Gorgut, the orc, is just right up here in Amric Peak. He actually starts in Thorn Woods, but he has moved 1 space on his way to Monarch City. On one of the very first turns of this game, I had Sapphire did move 1 space, but I was able to spend a special card and push her back 1 space. So that was really handy there. So my Monk's legendary ability is a Scavenger. You have learned to make the most of the resources of the land. Even in battle-torn regions, you have a knack for finding resources and information. In the evening phase, you may discard 1 of your hero cards and draw a replacement. So she can kind of cycle through various hero cards to find cards that are more beneficial to her. Right now in my Cleric's hand, I have the following cards. I have a special card. And these special cards can be used to fight generals, and they can also be used at any time. You can spend these special cards at any time on your turn or somebody else's turn just to do the special thing. And so here we have experienced guilds. Discard to add 2 dice to any quest adventure. We'll talk about quests in just a minute. And then she has a complement of cards right now, a couple green cards, a black card, a couple blue cards, and a red card. I'm kind of looking to get a few more green cards here so we can go and we can together, the Cleric and the Monk can go and attack Gorgut. I'm thinking about taking Gorgut out first, and that should help quite a bit. And then my Monk, in her hand, she has this special card, the Magic Gate. Place a Magic Gate on any location. So that's really cool because Magic Gates, I think, are going to be quite beneficial in a two-hero game because magic gates allow you, they're kind of like magical highways. They allow you to move to different spaces very quickly. At the beginning of the game, there's always a magic gate already built at the Dancing Stone. And then I think there are 4 or 5 more magic gates to build throughout the game. And so what I wanted to do is in my initial turns, I wanted to get out there and build some more magic gates so I have a way to quickly travel to different spots on the map. So my heroes went over to the west of the land here to the Withered Hills, and they spent a card at Withered Hills in order to build a magic gate there. So I can travel from the Dancing Stone to the Withered Hills. As part of my cleric's action, when she was heading over here to fight or to clear out these minions over here in Scorpion Canyon, she made a stop at the Blood Flats and she was able to build a magic gate at the Blood Flats. So now I have these magical connecting portals between the east side of the map, the west side of the map, and the center of the map. And I think that will be beneficial as this game goes. But my monk also has a complement of she has a black card, a couple red cards, and 3 green cards. So we're getting close to having enough green cards in order to mount an attack against Gorgut, the Orc General. So the quest, I'm also playing with the new quest deck, the expanded quest deck, which adds a whole bunch of quests to the game. And it expands upon the quests that are already available. At the beginning of the game, you will draw 1 quest per hero. My monk, of course, always has 2. However, I had some really bad luck on one of my initial monk quests, but there was some cool synergy with the story that transpired. So the first 2 quests I drew for my monk, the first one here was there's a battle on the high seas. Enemy troops are being transported to battle by the infamous black barges. And so this has to do with the blue region here is like a lake, and this lake and river system kind of connects. So as you can see, there are a few port towns that are in this blue region. And so this thematically had to do with those locations. So she needed to travel to Seabird Port, which is right here, from Monarch City, where we started the game. And she needed to spend 1 action, call out 2 different numbers, 1 to 6, roll 4 dice. And if both numbers were rolled, then I could claim my reward. However, there isn't really a reward for this quest. There is only a penalty if you fail. So your reward is to not have the bad stuff happen. I failed the quest, so all of this bad stuff happened. It was terrible. I took D3 wounds, and I had to add a whole bunch of minions to almost all of the places that have ports along the waterways. And man, that just took up it just added so many minions to the map on the very first turn. And this game has been a real uphill battle. Defenders of the Realm is already a big uphill battle because there are a whole bunch of ways to lose. Of course, if 5 or more minions make it to Monarch City, you lose. If any of the 4 generals make it to Monarch City, you lose. If you ever have to put out a colored minion and you are out, they're already all on the board, you've been overrun by that minion, you lose. And if you ever put out, I think it's the 10th or 12th, I can't remember, Taint Crystal, then you lose. So there are a number of ways to lose the game. There's only one way to win the game, and that is defeat all 4 of the generals. So just on the very first turn, I had a whole bunch of extra minions on the board to deal with. However, my second quest that I drew was thematically related to that first quest, and I love the way that this kind of stuff happens in this game. This game is really good at telling stories, at creating stories, and stories where you don't read a lot of text, just really interesting things happen while you are playing the game. And so this is the Pirates or Privateers. Once pirates can become valuable combatants in a time of war. And so for this quest, I needed to have my monk travel down to the south to Mermaid Harbor and to entice the more honorable pirates to become privateers for the king. And so to accomplish this quest, I have to flip over 2 cards from the hero deck. and then spend 2 cards that match their color. And if I do that, then on each one of my turns, I can send those pirates to a different place to do an action to take care of some of the minions in these different port cities. So that's really cool. But I ended up failing that first quest, and now I have to think about maybe solving this quest. But my second replacement quest that I drew for failing that first one is War Council with the King. And I need to go to Monarch City and do a couple things at Monarch City, and that will give me a reward. So I need to kind of go back to Monarch City and report to the king and work with the king to come up with a solution to this war. My cleric, also the monk also did this quest here. She took care of a lot of quests at the beginning of her at this game. She went to Brookdale. So I drew this quest, and when you draw this quest, you add a number of minions, of undead minions, to Brookdale Village, and you also add a tainting corruption crystal to Brookdale Village. And then I have to travel to Brookdale Village and take care of the minions, which I did. This minion was later added, so that doesn't really count. And then in doing so, whenever I end my turn in Brookdale Village, I get to draw an extra hero card during that part of my turn. So that's pretty cool as well. My cleric, her first quest was Hunt the Dark Troops, which worked out perfectly for her because she's really good at defeating the undead black minions. I had to defeat 4 of those in order to take my reward, so I did that. And now her quests that she's working on right now are the Druid Spirits. When summoned, the Druid Spirits rise from the marsh and converse with the living. So I need to travel to Ghost Marsh, which is all the way up in the upper right-hand corner, very far away from anything. And I need to take 1 action and roll 6 dice. For each odd, I suffer 1 wound, but then that automatically solves the quest and I get an additional reward for that. So that's pretty cool as well. So that's one expansion I am playing with. Another expansion I am playing with is the companion cards, and these are events and companions. And anytime you end your space, or when you go to an inn and you can take an action at an inn, you choose a number of cards, you choose 1 through 6, and you draw that many number of cards. So let's say 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you reveal those cards, and you have to do any events first. So the events have this symbol, and then any of the other cards are companions that you can spend the corresponding number and color of cards to recruit. And each hero can have 1 recruit. Right now, my cleric has the Princess Carolyn as a recruit. So she needed to discard 1 special card, and she has 2 powers now. She can re-roll all failed dice for any action once per turn, and she can ignore the combat skills of generals except for Varkalak, because Varkalak, the general of the undead, his main power is you cannot re-roll any dice when you are fighting against him. So her power does not negate his general power, but that is a pretty cool companion card to get there. So if I chose the number 4 and I drew these 4 cards here, first we would have to deal with the thieves. The inn is infiltrated by thieves in service of the Dark Lord. The active hero must discard a random hero card. Okay, then we would go to the next event. Betrayal, influenced by the darkness. A companion betrays. Roll a die. On a roll of 1 to 3, one of your companions betrays you. Suffer 1 wound and discard 1 of your companions at random. On a roll of 4 up, all of your companions remain loyal. And then I would have a chance to actually recruit either Bridget here, which is a seasoned scout, or Celine, an outcast witch. And either one of those would give me some additional power, some additional things to do on my turn. This is a really neat expansion. It's very easy to implement. It gives you something else to do in the ends rather than just listen for rumors, which is a way to get more hero cards into your hand. I like the way that you have to deal with the events before you can deal with the companions. And it adds more options for your heroes on their turn, more things for them to do. And it also adds those events, which are super thematic and go a long way towards creating this kind of living, breathing world while you are playing the game. One final small modular expansion that I am playing with is the Tainted Rose. And the Tainted Rose is a ship, and this ship can travel along the waterways, stopping off at various port cities. And there are, let's see, 4 different cities that this can go to. It starts in Seagull Lagoon, which is up here in the north, and then it can go to Seabird Port, which is here. Then it can go to Monarch City, and then it can go all the way down to the south to Mermaid Harbor. And when you land on a space where the boat is, you can take that ship to any one of those cities, and then you can do that additional thing at that city. So at Seagull Lagoon, you can draw 2 quest cards, then discard 2 quest cards. So that is a way to cycle through quest cards. And that is one of the only way to cycle through quest cards. So that is very useful there. And then if you stop off at Seabird Port, you can go to and take an additional rumors at the end action. If you go to Monarch City, you can discard a hero card to gain 2 actions. That's super cool. Or you can go to Bounty Bay and you can combat minions, general, or an agent at this location, adding +1. So that's kind of a way to defeat some of the minions and generals who are at Bounty Bay who might be ready to move into Monarch City. And then you can also go to Mermaid Harbor and you can discard 2 hero cards to draw 3 hero cards. And so that is a way to cycle through hero cards. And then sometimes you will also need to roll a d6 to determine randomly where the ship goes. Or if you roll a 1, which we just did, then the ship sinks. So that is another pretty cool little optional modular kind of expansion that you can add in. During one of my darkness turns, so there are 3 basic phases to a turn. In the morning, during the day, your heroes go, and your heroes spend your action and /life tokens to take a whole bunch of different actions. So there are a whole bunch of different things you can do. You can move by foot, which you can move to an adjacent space connected by a road. You can move by horse. You can discard a card that has a horse banner and spend 1 action to move 2 spaces. You can discard a card that has an eagle banner, which I don't think I have any right now. No, I do not. But you can hop a ride on the eagles to move 4 spaces. You can move from one gate to another, or you can discard a card with a gate banner to move to that location. You can build a magical gate if you have the card that matches the space you are on. That's how you build magical gates in your spaces. If you are in an inn, you can listen for rumors, and that's a way to generate more hero cards. You can heal the land. So if your land is corrupted by the taint and there are no minions, you can spend a card that matches that color. You can roll a die, and on a 5 or a 6, you can remove the crystal. You can engage in combat with minions. So if you were at the Father Oak Forest here, there are 2 orcs there. You could spend 1 action to attack both orcs, and the orcs just need a 3-up to hit. So I would have killed both of those orcs there. Or you can attack a general. And to attack a general, you need to discard cards that match that general down here at the bottom banner, and then you get that many d6. You have to roll that number or higher to hit that general, and then you really do want to kill the general outright, because if you don't kill the generals, they start regenerating health on later turns. So after all of the heroes have taken their actions, then we have the evening phase where the heroes will draw 2 new hero cards into their hand. And the hero cards will all have matching generals. So you build your hero deck by including all of the cards with the matching generals that are in play. And also a number of special cards. And I just remembered just now that we are also playing with another expansion. So in my hero deck, I am playing with 18 special cards. And these special cards can only ever be used 1 time. Once they're used, they are removed from the game. They are not shuffled back into the deck when the hero deck runs out. So you can use these cards to combat generals, or you can use them for their super special ability. Now, because I am using 18, which is a little more than normal, I am also playing with the Winds of War expansion. And man, this thing is brutal, but it's a really fun and thematic way to balance out this power of the special cards. With this small expansion, anytime you play a special card for its special ability, you add it to this deck here. And if there are ever 3 of these special cards on top of the deck, then you draw the Winds of War card. And these are all pretty powerful things that kind of change the scope of the game. Most of them are negative. This is defensive positions. The generals set up camp in defensive terrain. Ongoing action. When attacking generals, each hero in the battle loses 2 random hero cards to fight through the defenses of the general's camp. That is terrible. And then ongoing prevention. Heroes' group attack is limited to 2 heroes, a small party that sneaks past the general's defenses. So yeah, so these are all really bad. All kinds of nasty things can happen as you spend your special cards. I love this kind of tug of war between these 2 kinds of cards. So you could add a whole bunch of different special cards to your hero cards deck, but you really need to be careful about playing them because you will have to trigger these various Winds of War. That is super, super cool. I love that kind of system there where you can make one part of the game a little easier, but it balances out by making something else a little more difficult. And then, of course, in your Darkness Spreads cards, during the evening or during the night phase, each of the heroes will draw 1 Darkness Spreads cards at the end of their turn. And this is at the beginning of the game. You draw 1, but as you start killing more generals, you will move the war status token down, and the war gets more deadly and more dangerous. And then you have to start drawing more of the Darkness Spread cards at the end of each one of your turns. In the Darkness Spreads cards, there are a number of these environmental cards, these world event cards, and you can mix and match these to create the kind of deck you want to play. There are good cards and there are bad cards. Right now, I have a bad environmental effect out on my board right now, and that is Harsh Winter. The war goes slow and information about the Dark Lord and his generals is sparse. Immediate effect, draw 1 hero card per turn. The heroes gain only 1 card at the end of their turns rather than the usual 2. So it's a Harsh Winter right now. This stays out on the board until I cover it up with another one. And this is really bad. It's really limiting my ability to gather information about the generals and to then spend those cards to attack the generals. And within this deck, we have different ones that you can mix and match to make the deck either easier or harder. And you also have a number of these All is Quiet cards that you can mix in. However, these, when they are drawn, they also go to add to that Winds of War deck, which will trigger more Winds of War cards. So there are a whole bunch of different little modular expansions that you can add, that you can mix in. You can add some, leave off some. Some of them work together. Some of them will trigger other things. And you really can tailor this game to become the exact kind of game you want to play. So right now it is my monk's turn. My monk is all the way up here in the north in the Serpent Swamp. And she is about ready to take her turn. And then I will go back to my cleric's turn. And it is pretty difficult with 2 heroes, I think, to control the board. But you don't have to think about as many things because as you start getting your decks of your hands of hero cards, each hero can hold 10 cards. And so as you gain more cards, you're quickly with a 4-player game, and you're playing solo, you're quickly having to deal with like 40 cards in your hand to determine what you want to do. And it ends up being a lot. So I'm trying to find the right balance with different expansions, different ways to make the game easier, and different ways to make the game more fun for me playing with only 2 heroes. I don't know if I have found that balance quite yet. But like I said in the last video, this is a game that even when you lose, it's really fun just because of the emergent narrative that jumps off the table while you are defending the realm against the 4 generals and their minions. And you really do feel like you are part of this epic conflict, this great war, like the War of the Lance that is going on. So anyways, well, all right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this follow-up video, this kind of more of a detailed discussion on the gameplay of Defenders of the Realm, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.